The day, still some showers across northern Scotland, but for most a dry day to come. Plenty of sunny spells, though pretty windy across northern England, eastern parts of northern England as well, eastern Scotland, a northerly breeze here. Some large waves along the coast, but winds light further west, and with plenty of sunshine it will feel pleasant out there. Temperatures reaching around 15 or 16 Celsius above average for the time of year. Just a little chilly along those eastern coasts in that wind. As we head through into this evening time, some thicker cloud will start to approach parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland, but for most it's a dry end to the day. Plenty of evening sunshine and temperatures still in double figures in places, but starting to feel chilly as the sun drops in the sky. Plenty of dry weather across Northern Ireland, northern England as well. Breeze starting to ease as well. The rest of England and Wales clearing skies to end the day, and temperatures around 13 Celsius. Into the evening time, thicker cloud could give a few splashes of rain across Northern Ireland into the Western Isles as we head into the early hours. Otherwise, it's dry for many with clear skies, and that will allow temperatures to drop away. And with light winds, we could see some mist and fog patches forming in places too. Single-figure temperatures down to 3 or 4 in the towns and cities, perhaps a little lower than this in the countryside. So any early frost and fog quickly clearing, and then England and Wales, plenty of sunshine to come. Just still some weather fronts through the Irish Sea up into Northern Ireland and western Scotland, thick enough for some cloud and outbreaks of patchy rain. Otherwise, it's plenty of dry weather around, unbroken sunshine for parts of England and Wales, and with light winds feeling pleasant. Temperatures 17 or 18 Celsius, a little cooler under the cloud further north. See you soon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
I ended up being hospitalised, and I was diagnosed with it within the first few days of being in hospital. I was in hospital for 2 months, and I came out about 13 months ago, something like that. And I realised that there are people that aren't as lucky as me that don't have that platform to be able to talk about it, bring it out in the public, and deal with the stigma, because there is still a stigma.
A lot of people don't really know what bipolar is. So in you, Heston, how did it manifest itself?
It's funny because before the diagnosis, I mean, everything, many things, from thinking the TV was talking to me to hallucinating stuff. The downside is suicidal thoughts, which seemed normal at the time. The upside is the thing, there's grandiosity, somewhere between Superman and Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Save the world, love everybody, everything is fantastic. And then it comes crashing down. It's a bit like a toddler, you know, an overexcited child. And when a kid gets overexcited, and then something happens, and then they start crying.
Wow. So massive highs, big lows.
Yeah, but I thought everything was normal. It's only now that I've come out the other side, so to speak, that I look back and can see some of the character traits. I mean, my patience levels were almost non-existent before. I'm a lot more patient. I'm talking much slower. I was talking very quickly.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning and welcome to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. Happy Mother's Day to those to whom it's relevant. The Chancellor's spring statement has certainly kept Westminster busy. We'll be getting all of the reaction to that on today's show. Security Minister Dan Jarvis will join me. I'll be asking him about the government's latest bid to crack down on illegal working. Plus, what does he make of the bad reviews of Rachel Reeves' spring statement? I'll also be speaking to the Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghart. I'll get his reaction to a new Ipsos poll, which found that the public would prefer Sir Ed Davey to be Prime Minister over Kemi Badenoch. Former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, will be here in the studio. How does he think our current economic outlook compares to the aftermath of his own mini-budget? Tim Tozer, the former chairman and managing director of Vauxhall Motors, will be here. I'm going to be getting his reaction to President Trump's tariffs on the car industry. And two of the Darlington nurses who are suing their hospital trust for letting a trans woman into their changing room will be joining me to give an update on their case. As ever, we've got 90 minutes of punchy British politics to come, so do not even think of going anywhere. But first, joining me now to review the Sunday front pages is editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Lovely to see you this morning. An hour less sleep. We're both slightly jaded. I hope everyone's coping at home with the changes to the clocks going forward. But let's get stuck into the Sunday Telegraph's front page. I'll end jobs for illegal migrants, vows Cooper. This is the Home Secretary saying that she's going to crack down on the so-called gig economy. Tell me more.
I think it's a really good idea. She's saying that often people come over on the boats, they've been incentivised by the dinghy criminal gangs and told, you know, if you come over, you can get a job, nobody will ask any questions. You can earn up to £1,500 a month with no papers, basically.
Which is staggering revelation. I mean, when you consider that what's the point of having a national insurance number and all the rest of it?
Yeah.
And this is because there's a loophole. So employers are required to ask their employees what their immigration status is if they're on staff. But if they're self-employed contractors, they don't need to ask any questions at all. So this is a problem that has been affecting largely barbershops, car washes, nail salons and so on.
Yeah, it's a question I always ask myself, I have to say, when I go to those car washes. I do worry about modern slavery and the fact that these people come over and, you know, no questions are asked. Some companies do voluntarily check statuses. So I think Uber Eats does. But it's kind of any of those short journeys you make in a car, maybe not Uber, but other providers, any of those nail salons, they all seem to be employing people without checking, and they don't have to check. So it makes total sense to close that loophole. I have to say, I'm quite surprised it's taken until now. To decide to do this.
Well, why didn't it happen under the Tories? This is the other question.
Under anyone, really. It's actually such... Now I know about it, it's such an obvious loophole, isn't it? And they've been in power a long time, Labour, and they've been talking about smashing the gangs, but we don't really know what that means. Here is something... Look, I'm glad they're doing it. I'm sure it's to distract from the spring statement, to be honest. But I'm glad that they're doing it, but I'm amazed it's taken them so long to figure this out. This loophole needs to be closed ASAP.
Let's move on to the next story. It's in the Mail on Sunday, your paper, front page. Harry and Meghan are toxic and Harry is a bully. Now, this follows this extraordinary row which has seen Prince Harry leave his charity Centre Bali, set up in memory of his late mother, Princess Diana. It means Forget Me Not. It's to help children in Lesotho in Africa. What's gone on here? Because it seems to be a war of words now.
Well, astonishingly, I think it comes down to something really tiny, which is a year ago, Meghan asked this woman to move aside while she received a polo trophy.
Yeah, this is the chairwoman of the charity.
Yes, the chairwoman of the charity. And from that moment onwards, there's been a real tension between the two women. And that's something that she cited.
What do you mean move aside? So there was a photo opportunity.
There's a photo opportunity. Meghan was receiving the polo trophy with Harry, and she asked the chair of the charity to move aside as if she was an underling, but she's actually, you know, the boss of the charity.
Wow.
This caused offence, the video went viral, and afterwards the Sussex PR machine, which is what Dr Sophie is calling it, was sort of asked Sophie to say, look, Meghan really didn't mean to offend me and I'm absolutely fine about it. And she refused to get involved in this PR effort. And she said, no, you know, I'm running a charity. I don't want to run the PR Sussex machine. And from that moment onwards, I think there was tension. But I also found out about 6 months ago that there was a problem with sponsorship, and somebody had to have a very uncomfortable conversation with Prince Harry and say, look, you haven't really been front and centre of the charity, at least in public recently, and sponsorship has dwindled to almost nothing. And somebody had to have that conversation. I don't think that conversation went very well. But on the plus side, he then did turn up in Lesotho for the first time in 6 years at around the same time. So obviously he listened to the advice, but it was obviously a very uncomfortable conversation. And here are two people who think it's their charity, sort of at loggerheads with one another.
Well, what do you make of where the Sussexes are now? You've obviously got Meghan having launched her new Netflix series, where At Home with Meghan, where she's basically sort of cooking and showing off interior design and all the rest of it. She's also gone on to Instagram. She's now kind of got links to her own clothes in a bid to kind of weaponise that. She wants to be a billionaire. Meanwhile, Harry is embroiled in this scandal. I mean, how do you think it's looking for them?
I think it's going to really, really upset Harry, especially because they've been having a professional separation, Meghan and Harry. So she's been, as you say, doing all her cookery shows and her influencing. And he's very much hoping to carve himself out as a philanthropist full-time. And that was his plan for 2025. And absolutely, it's been completely destroyed by this. And there are some reports that people are actually worried about his mental health because it's so part of who he is. It's the original thing that gave him purpose years ago. And it reminds him of his mother. You know, of course, it was set up in honour of her. Yes. And I just wonder what he's going to do without this charity or without really any charity. Obviously, he's got Invictus, but his philanthropic efforts have sort of stalled very early on.
Look, he is a good charitable ambassador. There's no doubt about that. With everything that's been said and done about Harry and Meghan, you can't take that away from him. He sets up these initiatives. He's absolutely, you know, attached to them and lives and breathes them, particularly Invictus. So it is a shame that this story is now dominating the headlines. Let's move on to another theme of the week. Now, it's in the Sunday Times, and the headline is, Met smash down door of Quaker meeting house and arrest activists. What on earth has gone on here? Because I think it is the first time in the Quakers' history that the police have basically raided a place of worship.
And not only that, they literally broke the door down. There were 20 members of the police here. I don't know why they weren't on the streets of London arresting people who were shoplifting or, you know, rapes and murders. They could have been doing so much more. These people were sitting around eating hummus.
Of course they were.
And breadsticks. I just don't think they were, you know, a terrifying group of mobsters that needed to be attacked in the first instance.
To be fair to the Met, they have responded to this story saying that the women who were arrested, it was about a group of 6 women, had been, they say, they're under suspicion of conspiracy to cause a public nuisance. None of them have been charged. This was the sense that they might be planning something that would go and disrupt the public, and that's why the Met swooped in. But I think there's a question of proportionality here, not least after we heard this story, extraordinary story in the week, of the parents who had complained about the school on a WhatsApp group, then being interrogated by 6 officers surrounding their house. I mean, this is the kind of thing you see on telly when you want to see, for instance, smuggling gangs smashed, to use that phrase, or, you know, some kind of drugs ring.
Yeah.
And it's being used on people who are basically just trying to exercise a degree of protest in 2 different ways in these cases.
It feels like it's free speech being eroded and there's a pattern emerging. And I'm really pleased that the press are keeping on top of this, because we need to keep a really close tab on this pattern and make sure it doesn't get worse, and keep reporting every single incident like this, because we have a right to free speech, and they did have a right to gather. And of course they don't have a right to cause public nuisance, and I can sort of see the logic in intervening at an early stage. It's just, as you say, the heavy-handed nature of 20 people turning up and smashing down a door.
I mean, I don't think 20 police officer turns up if you've had your bike nicked or indeed your shop looted by thieves. That's the problem as well, I think. Let's just end on this extraordinary story on the front of The Sun on Sunday. MP's dog on expenses. In brief, what's gone on here, Charlotte?
So she claims rent for a second home in London because she's an MP, fair enough.
Yes.
She does have a family in her other house who presumably could look after her dog, but instead...
This is Taiwo Owatemi, who is a senior Labour MP. She's a party whip, actually.
Yeah, and so she's got I think it's a cavapoo.
She's got a cockapoo, I believe, called Bella.
I have to say, if it wasn't a cockapoo, the story would slightly be less embarrassing. But there's something bad about it being a cockapoo. It just seems so ridiculous. She's not Britney Spears. She doesn't need to have her dog with her at all times while she's working. And the landlord is charging her it seems a very large amount to have her dog living with her.
Yes, it's like a dog rent, so that you can... Perhaps it's a charge in case there's any damage to the property that she's renting. Fair enough.
It does seem higher than usual, I have to say. I do know about dog rent. It's not so bad, usually.
Why is the taxpayer funding this? This isn't essential.
It's not essential. She could be leaving this dog at home with her family. And there are people out there who've had their benefits cut who are thinking, what I could do with £900. You know, I wouldn't be taking my cockapoo around with me.
No, indeed.
To work.
Charlotte Griffiths, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning on GB News. Lovely to do the papers with you. Well, coming up next, Security Minister Dan Jarvis will join me. I think I might ask him about a Labour MP spending £900 of taxpayers' money on her dog and other matters. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. We continue to stay unsettled across central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean with further heavy showers and thunderstorms, some localised flooding possible. Through Monday, we can see across much of Greece into Italy those heavy downpours continuing, some brisk winds, feeling quite cold too, but drier further west into Spain and Portugal, sunny spells before heading over to Madeira, where there'll be some showers here, and largely dry across the Canary Islands. Over the next few days, it stays fairly similar, temperatures in the sunshine reaching the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Security Minister Dan Jarvis. Minister, thank you so much for your time this morning. I'm going to start with a story that seems to be making a little bit of a ruckus. And sorry, it's not about immigration. We'll get onto that in just a moment. But it is this story about your Labour colleague, Taiwo Owatemi. Should she have used £900 of taxpayers' cash so that her cockapoo Bella can stay at her London home?
Well, good morning. I completely understand why you've asked me about that, and I'm sure the public will be wondering why it is the case that an MP is able to do that. That's why the government are going to make representations to IPSA, the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, about the rules, because we're concerned about rules. We don't think that it should be the case that somebody could do what's happened here. It is important to make the point that under the existing rules, she hasn't done anything wrong, but we don't think the rules are right, and that's why we're going to raise concerns with IPSA about it.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. Let's move on to Yvette Cooper's pledge to end jobs on tap for illegal immigrants. This is a crackdown on those working in the so-called gig economy. Having said that, Mr. Jarvis, she still hasn't smashed the gangs, has she? We've had 30,000 arrivals by boat since Labour took power.
For 6 years, the previous government allowed the criminal networks that smuggle people into this country to largely get away with it. We are tackling their activities by working very closely with our neighbours internationally. And that's why we are hosting the summit in London over the next couple of days, because this is a truly international challenge. And the solution will have to be truly international as well. It will involve us, as we are, working very closely with the French, but with a range of other partners along the supply networks that people are trafficked along. So this is the UK showing real leadership in terms of bringing more than 40 countries from around the world together to look at what more we can do to tackle this pernicious activity.
Yes. You say the Tory government allowed people to get away with it. In what way is Labour not allowing people to get away with it? As of the 28th of March 2025, 6,642 people arrived illegally by boat. This is the earliest point in the year that crossings have reached that point since records began. So you could say that a record number of people have arrived here. In what way is that Labour taking any more action than the Tories did?
Well, I'm sure you'd also acknowledge that there have been 19,000 people who've been returned. So that's 19,000 asylum claims that has been refused, and 19,000 people who've been returned since we came into office. That is an increase of more than 20%. So there's significant activity with regard to returns. There's also very significant activity in terms of working with partners, not just with the French, and the French have made some very significant changes to the way that they will manage this particular challenge, which I think will deliver real operational effect over the coming weeks and months. But also look at the work that we're doing with Iraq. Iraq is a major hub for these smuggling networks. We've got an agreement with them. So a drawing together of this activity will mean that we are much better placed than was the case previously to target these criminal networks. The NCA have shifted some of their resource. There's been some additional investment from this government. So this is a difficult and challenging international problem, and we're working with our partners to get a grip of it in the way that the previous government wasn't able to.
Although doesn't it betray a lack of seriousness about tackling the issue of immigration, legal and illegal, to discover that there was barely a mention of the word immigration in Rachel Reeves's spring statement on Wednesday?
I'm not sure I necessarily sort of draw the link between the two. This government is absolutely clear about the priority that we attach both to reducing net migration, which obviously includes legal migration, but also targeting those criminal networks that are smuggling people into our country. We've got to do everything that we can, and we are. The French have made a number of very helpful changes to their operational policy. You may recall that during the Olympic Games, there was a massive reduction in the number of people who crossed the channel. We're going to move back to an arrangement such as that, which should have a significant impact on people crossing. And all of the work that we're doing internationally, not least in terms of the bringing together of 40 nations around the country over the next couple of days. So I'm confident that we will see very significant reductions. We're working at pace across government and with our allies, and absolutely it is a top priority for this government.
But I mentioned the spring statement because Obviously, the government has announced this crackdown on benefits. I found it staggering that the Chancellor didn't mention immigration in her speech when you consider that 1.2 million foreign nationals are claiming benefits and the universal credit bill for foreign nationals alone is 7.5 billion.
I mean, and that's one of the reasons why the Home Secretary has made an announcement that she'll be working with international partners on today about ensuring that business conduct right-to-work checks, because there is a particular issue at the moment with people who've come here, overstayed and are working illegally, but employers are not making the checks that are required in order to confirm who is able to work legally or not. So this eligibility check, which we will be introducing, will go a significant way to reducing the number of people who are seeking to work here in the UK when they're not entitled to do so.
OK, but the Chancellor's economic sums don't add up, do they, Mr Jarvis? On one hand, she says she is sticking to her non-negotiable fiscal rules, and we discover that she's borrowing 20 billion more over the next 2 years. She then made the claim that British householders would be £500 better off by the budget. Actually, in reality, this is what's going to happen to bills after April the 1st. Water up 26%, energy up 6.4%, broadband up 6.4%, council tax up 5%, trains up 4.6%, stamp duty up, tax up, mobile contracts up, TV licence up. So how on earth has she come up with this £500 figure?
Well, with respect, you didn't mention the economic inheritance, the fact that we inherited a massive financial
I'm talking about the £500 promise only, Mr Jarvis. Can we address that rather than talking about 14 years of Tory rule? How on earth could she promise £500? It's the same as Ed Miliband saying that there would be £300 off energy bills, when actually more than £300 has been added to energy bills since Labour took power.
But I hope that you and your viewers would acknowledge the very challenging financial circumstances that we inherited from the previous government. And yes, of course, the Chancellor has had to take difficult decisions in order to fix the foundations of our economy so that we are best placed to secure economic growth and invest in public services that have been run down over many years. The Chancellor has had to take difficult decisions, but we are confident that over the course of this Parliament, that will result in economic growth, which will allow us to more effectively invest in public services, which will improve...
I appreciate the economic inheritance, but to suggest that we're going to be £500 better off is a lie, isn't it? I've just given you the figures to suggest precisely the opposite will be true. So why is she telling lies in spring statements?
She isn't, and I think that is an unfair and unreasonable criticism. The Chancellor is doing a good job under very difficult circumstances. Yes, she's had to make some difficult choices. Yes, there have been some criticisms around those choices. But in large part, this is clearing up the mess that we inherited. And that is what this government will continue to do, to ensure that we take the tough decisions that the previous government shied away from, not least in terms of things like welfare reform, the measures that we've announced with regard to NHS England.
Hang on.
There is good news as well.
Right.
I mean, look at what the OBR said in terms of the work that we're doing on planning reform that will deliver a £6 billion uplift to our economy.
Although it's also been pointed out by the OBR that Labour will not hit its 1.5 million housing target by the end of the Parliament. But my question is this, Mr Jarvis. How on earth can it be credible for the Chancellor to have claimed, considering everything you've said about the economic legacy that you've inherited, the difficult situation the Chancellor herself has blamed world events, how on earth is it credible to suggest that the British public will be £500 better off after her budget and spring statement? It's an untruth.
Well, I know as a constituency MP that we are still living through the legacy of the cost of living crisis, and times are very tough for lots of people. But that is precisely why the government is making tough choices. That is why we are reforming welfare, because let's be honest about it, significant amount of money has been invested into welfare without the reforms that need to go with it. Look at the money that we've invested into the NHS, but the value that that is now adding in terms of reduced waiting lists month after month.
I'm going to ask one more time. Is the £500 claim true when I've listed all of the bills that are going to go up for householders after April the 1st? Is it true to say we're going to be £500 better off? Because all of the sums suggest precisely the opposite.
Well, I completely back what the Chancellor has said. She will look at this in the round. She will look at the costs that people will have to cover. She absolutely acknowledges the difficult circumstances that we're operating in. And is why the government is taking tough choices to fix the foundations of our economy so that we've got the resource available there to invest in our public services for the benefit of the public.
Why do you think so many millionaires are leaving the country under Labour? One every 45 minutes. We now hear that the steel giant Lakshmi Mittal will be the latest to leave the country.
Well, in truth, and I mean this very respectfully, you'd have to ask them and not me. But what I can tell you is that we are pursuing a balanced economic policy. It is a basic principle that those with the broadest shoulders should carry the heaviest of load. But of course, we recognise the huge contribution that our wealth creators add to our economy. So I'm sorry if anybody takes the decision that they want to leave the country. Ours is a great country with very much to commend it. But people will have to make their own individual choices. But I don't agree with the inference that this government is seeking to encourage people to do that, because we are simply not. We want people to live here, to invest in our economy, to pay their taxes and contribute to our society. I mentioned the economic inheritance. We've had to take some difficult choices, but we've tried to do that in the most balanced way possible.
OK, Dan Jarvis, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Still lots more to come on the Camilla Tominey Show today. Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghart, will join me. Plus, former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, will be here with me in the studio. And I'll be speaking to the former Managing Director of Vauxhall Motors, Tim Tozer, to discuss Trump's tariffs, along with 2 Darlington nurses suing an NHS trust for allowing a man called Rose into their changing room. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not 1, but 2 sought-after designer watches. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Because we've got this Snow White premiere. What's going on with it? I've been hearing about this Snow White film for about 2 years, and it doesn't seem to be good news in the headlines.
No. I mean, it's quite unusual for a kids' film to get so much controversy, but it has been sort of dogged by sort of bad headlines and bad press for quite a long time. And then in the sort of immediate run-up to its release, it looks as though they've sort of scaled back a lot of the promotion to sort of avoid more controversy. But that in itself is creating headlines. I mean,
we're seeing some of the trailer now for anyone watching it on TV. We've seen some of that. I must say, when I watched the trailer, I wasn't particularly impressed by it.
Well, I mean, some of the Disney live actions have been brilliant and some of them have been less good. I mean, I sort of think any press is good press. I mean, more people are aware that the film's coming out now than would have been if we hadn't had all this bad press. And I suspect that, I mean, people who are going to go are people taking their kids. And if kids aren't bothered about what one of the actresses has said or whether the dwarves are real or CGI, like, I think it'll probably do very well. I think it depends whether it's any good, really. I think that's the most important thing. I think the negative sort of press and controversy around it probably isn't going to have a massive factor in the takings.
Yeah. What does scaled back mean in terms of the premiere? What does that actually, how will that look?
So a lot of films will have a big premiere in Leicester Square. That's a sort of like, I guess in Europe, the sort of HQ for premieres, and you get a lot of, you know, the world will jet in to cover that. Whereas this has had a sort of quite a small scale premiere in northern Spain in a castle. So it kind of looked quite grand, but it was on a very small scale. So and there haven't been as many interviews and things like that with the cast, I think, because of everything that's happening. So it has been scaled back a bit. But I mean, like, we're talking about it now, so it's working, whatever they are doing.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. Lots more still to come this morning. Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghart, will be here. Former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, will be joining me in the studio to react to Rachel Reeves' spring statement. I'll be asking the former Managing Director of Vauxhall Motors, Tim Tozer, about the potential impact of President Trump's tariffs, and two of the Darlington nurses who are suing the County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust will be here to tell their story. But first, here's your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Camilla, thank you very much. The top stories. Prince Harry has been accused of harassment and bullying by the chair of the charity he set up in Princess Diana's honour. Dr. Sophie Chenkowda has claimed the Duke of trying to sabotage the organisation before sensationally quitting earlier this week. She told reporters he wanted to eject her of the charity he founded in honour of his late mother through bullying and harassment. Well, in response, we've heard from a source close to Prince Harry and other trustees who left Centre Barley in solidarity this week. They said they fully expected this publicity stunt from the doctor. They remain firm in their resignation and look forward to the adjudication of the truth. Elsewhere, the government will introduce tough new laws to clamp down on illegal working. Companies hiring people in the gig economy will now be legally required to carry out checks confirming anyone working in their name is eligible to work in the UK, bringing them in line with other employers. The term gig economy usually refers to short-term jobs, the most common examples including food delivery drivers and construction workers. That's ahead of the government's first international summit on people smuggling gangs, which begins in London tomorrow. And finally, the UN's warning of a severe shortage of medical supplies hampering the response to a deadly earthquake that hit Myanmar on Friday. As that search for survivors continues, 139 people are reportedly still missing across the country. More than 1,600 people now have been killed in Myanmar, thousands more injured following a 7.7 magnitude earthquake. The tremors caused destruction as far away as Thailand and China. Hundreds are believed to still be trapped under the rubble of some of those collapsed buildings. In Bangkok, a 12th body was recovered late last night from the site of a collapsed high-rise in Myanmar, and a woman was recovered alive after being trapped under rubble for 30 hours. The UK government has pledged up to £10 million in life-saving aid. Those are the latest stories. For now, more from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thanks, Tatiana. I'm going to be joined shortly in the studio by former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng. Plus, I'll be speaking to the former Managing Director of Vauxhall Motors, Tim Tozer, about the potential impact of President Trump's tariffs on the car industry. He also has a lot to say about the government's net zero quest. So looking forward to that. And NHS nurses Bethany Hutchinson and Lisa Lockie will join me to share the latest on their case as they sue the County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust for sexual discrimination and sexual harassment. You might have heard of this story. It involved them being forced to use a changing room with a man called Rose, somebody who identifies as a woman, but they say they should not have allowed him into their changing room. But first, I'm delighted to be joined by the Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghart. Thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. I just want to pick on something I was discussing with Dan Jarvis about the spring statement. This claim the Chancellor has made that British householders will be £500 better off as a result of the budget and the spring statement. Do you think those sums add up?
No one is going to be better off as a consequence of the spring statement, Camilla. It's complete nonsense, right? This figure, I think if it's been plucked out of page 36 of the report, which says if everything goes right, by the end of the Parliament, by the end of the decade, some people will be a few £100 a month better off, a few £100 a year better off. But it doesn't take account of the fact that as of next week, everybody's energy prices are going up, everybody's water bills are going up, train fares are going up, and a lot of people are going to lose their jobs because of national insurance contribution changes. So it's just poppycock.
But Labour are saying this is the economic inheritance they were landed with after 14 years of destructive Tory rule.
Yeah, they would say that, wouldn't they? Fact is
well,
that the
true?
Labour Party inherited the fastest growing... No, it's not, because the Labour Party inherited the fastest growing economy in the G7, and because of the bad choices that Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer made last year, the economy is now in a bad way. The economy started contracting, and that's even before we get to next month, when these disastrous taxes on businesses come in, taxes on jobs come in, that will mean people aren't hiring, people aren't going to set up businesses, some businesses are going to go to the wall, and some people are going to lose their jobs. You can't have a growing economy if you put too much pressure on business. It's the private sector that grows the economy. No other part of, nothing else does it, and the Labour Party doesn't get that.
OK, so if the Labour Party is doing so badly in government, this means that the Tories are going to have a great local elections in May then?
No, so as you remember, Camilla, because you're a very experienced commentator, that we had a very good local elections 4 years ago, 2021. It was the vaccine bounce, and we had a very unusually good showing. And we expect to slip back from that position. We've obviously got pressure from Reform as well. So look, we're realistic about the local elections, but we'll be taking our message and our argument to the voting public every single day until that point.
But if Reform outperform you, what does that say about the future of the Conservatives?
Let's see how Reform do. They have not been doing as well in the local council by-elections over the past few months compared to their positions in the polls. So let's see how they actually do in a proper campaign. Look, me and my colleagues, we're out to get every single vote we can, and I was out campaigning yesterday and the day before. I'll be going out again on Monday once I've got Mothering Sunday out of the way, and we'll be making the case for the Conservatives.
But why have the Tories given up on Runcorn, seemingly? I mean, I appreciate Reform are the favourites to win that, Labour lagging behind, but it seems as if the Tories won't get a look in. You've just given up on it.
Yeah, well, I don't... We have, I think we're very realistic about our prospects in Runcorn. I don't think we've ever won Runcorn. So
you're not bothering?
But I'm sure that... we'll give it our best shot, but we'll be realistic about it as well.
What's happened to Lord Bamford? He once gave the Tories £3 million. I think in total he's given the Conservatives £17 million worth of donations. And now he's lent one of his JCBs to Nigel Farage for Reform's local election launch on Friday. Have you lost another mega donor?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. What I can tell
you should know. He gives you a lot of money, doesn't he?
One of the most recent release of donations to political parties showed that the Conservatives under Kemi are considerably outstripping both Labour and Reform. So to date, all of this chat about Reform courting Tory donors, they haven't put their hands in their pocket. People are giving to the Conservative Party and to Kemi, and that's a good sign of confidence.
Although the public don't seem to share that confidence in Kemi. We've got an Ipsos poll which has revealed this week that when asked who they would prefer as Prime Minister, 28% said Farage, 27% said Starmer, 26% said Ed Davey. Kemi trailed them all on 18%. That's not great, is it, to be outpolled by the Lib Dem leader?
Those polls don't account for the number of people who say don't know, and they also don't take account of the fact that Kemi has all of those people you've named have been in frontline politics for a very, very long time. Ed Davey was around under the coalition. Nigel Farage has been around for donkey's years. Keir Starmer has been at the front of the Labour Party for about a decade. Kemi has only been leader of the Conservative Party since November, and I've every confidence that as time goes on, you're going to see those figures shift.
All right. Nigel Farage at a lobby lunch this week described the Tory shadow cabinet as a, quote, bunch of stuffy, boring old bastards. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think he's wrong, Camilla. And I think you probably disagree with it as well, because you know that actually the front bench of the Conservative Party is young, is full of ideas. Kemi had a very good speech that I know that you were at 10 days ago, where she took on net zero and said that we need a new energy policy that is going to drive down the cost of energy for British people, for British businesses, and for British public services. And I think that we're effectively the new show in town. And as time goes on, people will hear that message and realise that we've got the potential. But look, we suffered a big defeat last year, and we know we've got to do a lot of work to win back the confidence and trust of the British people. But we're engaged in that journey.
We'll just apologise for that language. It wasn't mine. It was a direct quote of Nigel Farage's, just to make that clear. Let's just quickly talk about.
It's quite early in the morning for that language.
Well, it's got a certain meaning that is quite
early on a Sunday morning.
Quite straightforward. I've used worse language, Alex, but not on the telly, as you know. When we look at the VAT,
I don't believe it.
When we look at the VAT on private school fees, an interesting revelation. The government has appointed 4 KCs to fight their case against private schools and a parenting group. All of them are privately educated. Meanwhile, we learn that Ellie Reeves, who is a Labour minister and happens to be sister to the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, thinks that all private schools should be abolished. Do you think that's actually the aim of this Labour policy, just to scrap all private schools?
Yeah, I sort of do, really. I think they definitely don't care about public schools, and they don't care about the children in them, and they don't care about the people who work at them. And they also don't care about the other local schools who are now going to have to take additional pupils, without additional money, additional pupils for those schools who close down. We're seeing historic English public schools shut every month because of this disastrous policy. And it's not just bad for the children who are at those schools, it's bad for everyone. So I just, I'm very pleased that the Conservative Party is committed to reverse it.
Yes, I noticed there was a story in the papers today to say that applications to state sixth forms had gone up exponentially because of the policy. Right. One final question. You'll be familiar with this story about the parents on the WhatsApp group being investigated by 6 police officers for questioning school policy. We've now got a Quaker meeting house having seemingly been sort of bombarded by the Met Police because people were holding a meeting there. In general, Mr. Burghart, do you think that the police are using a sledgehammer to crack a nut on freedom of speech while ignoring other significant crimes like burglary, theft and rape?
Yeah, as you would expect, my constituents in Brentwood and Ongar in Essex would much rather that the police were spending their time and precious resources going after burglaries, violent crime, disorder on the streets, than going after people who have criticised their schools on WhatsApp groups. So I really hope that that the police take this public criticism on board and look again at some of their procedures and priorities.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Alex Burghart, for joining us on GB News.
Thanks, Camilla.
Well, coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng. He's going to give us his view on the current economic outlook and how it compares to the aftermath of his own mini-budget. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here
We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dan.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, joins me in the studio. Good morning,
Hello.
sir.
Good
How
to
are
see
you? What's your reaction to the spring statement then? I know you've written for the Sunday Telegraph today, been quite disparaging. What's your overall view?
Well, look,
of it?
I think that we're in a position where, as Alex Burghart said, the Labour Party inherited an economic picture. It wasn't rosy, but we were growing. And also, you'll remember the OBR, only last October, said that the growth this year would be 2%. Now, what they did last week was they halved that projection. And the reason why they halved it, I think, not only, but the main reason they did that was because of what Rachel Reeves did in her budget at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Which, if you'll remember, she raised £40 billion in taxes. And most of that £40 billion was coming from businesses. It was coming from employers in the form of national insurance contributions. You'll remember the inheritance tax that was imposed on farmers and small businesses. And if you put up taxes on the wealth-creating part of the economy, you're going to disincentivise investment. You're going to stop or prevent people from wanting to invest. And you're going to have slower growth rates. And that's exactly what's happened.
Although she'll point out, first of all, that the world has changed.
Yeah, but governments always do that.
But
I said that in my
is there a
piece.
Trump factor involved
No,
here?
because they revised the figures a lot before Donald Trump announces tariffs, and we don't even know what the effect of the tariffs will be.
But then the OBR predicts we will go into growth subsequently.
So that's the key. There's the rub. So where they've predicted 1% growth this year, they've said that after that, in 2026, we'll have 1.9%.
Which isn't bad.
Which is good. And in 2027, we'll have 1.8%. But they can always revise those figures down. So when it comes to the budget in October, the OBR will come up with new figures.
Yeah.
And if for whatever reason, the numbers they've put in now for 2026 and 2027, if they revise them down, we're in exactly the same position.
So she's going to have to find more money.
Exactly.
And where do you think she'll find it?
So this is the big question. If the OBR is less hopeful about 26 and 27 in 6 months' time, she'll either have to do what she did now. She has to either reduce spending, and I think the tolerance of Labour MPs for more spending cuts will be zero, frankly.
Right.
Or she'll have to put up taxes. And that's where the left are. The left are saying we've got to tax the rich. That's always their knee-jerk reaction.
But she said she won't put taxes on working people.
Not on working people, but you could think of things like capital taxes, things like a mansion tax. So if you own a home in the southeast, you'll be very much in the firing line. If your home is worth over a certain amount, you could be in a position where you have to pay a percentage every year just for the privilege of living in your house.
What is to stop her borrowing more? Because I know she said she's going to be sticking to her non-negotiable fiscal rules, but we found out on Wednesday she's actually borrowing £20 billion more.
Sure. So I think publicly she'll say she's not going to be borrowing any more money. Because, what happened to me and Liz Truss was all the market reaction. That's a very important thing. And so her signal to the market is, I'm not going to borrow any more money. And if she does, then there could well be a reaction. But broadly, the problem we face, and I've said this repeatedly, is exactly the same one we faced for the last 20 years almost. We're not growing the economy. And the problem with that is if you've got more and more public spending, you've got deals with public sector pay, you've got more people, frankly, coming into the country, you have to spend more and more with less and less.
Yes.
And only if you can, and that's what I tried to do, only if you can actually solve and grow the economy, incentivise people to invest, then you can actually pay for the public services you want to see.
I mean, there's a degree of smoke and mirrors here because we've got this threatened Labour backbench revolt over spending cuts. They're not really spending cuts, they're just growth reductions.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
Public spending is still going to be 45% of GDP at the end of this Parliament. That's the same as Boris Johnson, which includes the COVID spending.
That's right.
So it's still high levels of government spending,
so, I mean,
high levels of tax. Tax burden's going to hit 37.5%. Under Blair in 2009, it was 32.5%, although government spending was high.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do we just have to accept now that we're going to be taxed until the pits
And it's interesting because both Liz Truss and Rachel Reeves in the last Parliament talked about the doom loop. And that's exactly where we are. The doom loop is essentially one where you can't grow the economy. So the only way that you can get more money is to try and raise taxes. But by doing that, you can't grow the economy. So you're in this sort of vicious cycle. And this is, I'm afraid, very much what it appears to me that we're in.
What do you think is going to happen to inflation, first of all? Do you think that target of 2% by 2027 is going to be met?
I think it's difficult to see because, obviously, if you've got a global trade war, and this isn't the government's fault. I mean, we can speak more broadly about this.
That's the one thing we can blame Donald Trump for.
Well, it won't make inflation easier on the rest of the world if you've got tariff barriers.
Also, do you agree that, regardless of what the inflation figure is, the public aren't feeling it? No. They're not feeling it in their shopping baskets. No. They're not feeling it in their energy bills.
I mean, this is the other thing. The energy bills are going up, and I think that's why Kemi was right to say, look, let's look at this net zero. I mean, I was a minister, I was very much beating the drum for net zero when I was energy secretary. No, I don't regret it. I think the world has changed. I think what happened with Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine and also the post-COVID kind of bounce that you had in places like, Southeast Asia, that meant that energy costs, gas costs went through the roof.
But how is the Chancellor able to claim that we're all going to be £500 better off as a result of her budget?
That's just smoke. That's just the government.
I asked Dan Jarvis about it. I can't understand how those maths work out.
It doesn't work out because all they're looking at is the kind of revenue side, and they're saying, well, we're putting money into people's pockets, but they're not thinking about the costs. They're not thinking about the increase in energy bills. They're not thinking about the increase in council tax that completely wipes out that £500.
This whole gilt yield situation is interesting, isn't it? They peaked at 5.17% 5 days after the mini-budget that Labour has said was so catastrophic. They're now at 5.29%.
So it's higher.
That's the 30-year gilt yields. 10-year gilt yields, again, they peaked at 4.6% 5 days after the mini-budget. They're now at 4.7%. Sure. I mean, has the budget been as catastrophic as your mini-budget?
Well, look, people go on about the mini-budget, but you've got to remember, and then I always make this point, the OBR predicted last October, so that was after the Tories had been and gone, after the Tory government had been voted out, the OBR came up with a prediction for UK growth in 2025, last October, and they said it would be 2%. So their prediction of 2% a few months ago took in everything that happened in the Tory government. And as Alex said, Alex Burghart, we were growing faster than any other country in the G7. After Rachel Reeves' budget, which saw all the tax hikes I've talked about, everything has been revised down. Now, you're right to say there are a couple of other things internationally. Let's be fair. But the main reason why they've halved that growth figure is because of Labour drastically increasing taxes. And you've seen the effects of that. I mean, with the non-dom status, Lakshmi Mittal, a big steel producer, anecdotally, people are leaving.
Millionaires going every 45 minutes.
Every 45 minutes, exactly. And that's where, and actually, just lastly, we've been here before. This is exactly what the 1970s were like in many ways, where you had very, very high tax levels, very successful people were leaving the country, and essentially you had to have the Thatcher Revolution to get us out of that hole.
Is Kemi Badenoch Thatcher, though?
Well, I think it's early days. I think she was, tasked with a very difficult job, and it'll take time, I think, for her to have cut through. But I'm one for not panicking because, what can she do? Can she just try and out-reform? That wouldn't be plausible. She's got to carve out her own path.
Jenrick's trying to out-reform.
I don't think that works because they might as well just vote for the real thing.
Yeah.
There's no point trying to be a kind of tribute act to another party.
The thrust of your Sunday Telegraph piece is that this is the beginning of the end for Labour. Do you believe that?
Yeah,
we're only 1 year into a four-year parliament.
I get that, but
I mean, we're not even 1 year in, are we?
If they don't get the growth that they promised and that they've staked everything on, all you're going to see is higher public spending and higher taxes. And I think in that context, it'll be very difficult for them to get re-elected. Now, it's silly to predict these things, especially 4 years out, but one can see how this might end, and I don't think it'll be good for the Labour Party.
Do you get the impression that Rachel Reeves is out of her depth? I say that because you've had her job. You know how difficult it is.
It is a hard job, but also I think...
This whole inflation of the CV and pretending she's got more experience.
Yeah, those things were silly. Those things, I don't know what she was doing.
Is she cut out for this job?
So I think that she's essentially a creature of the Labour Party and a creature of Keir Starmer. So the question you have to ask yourself is, if she's not there, which of these Labour MPs would do anything differently? I don't think any of them would.
But he can't sack her, as you know from personal experience.
That's right.
A Prime Minister sacks a Chancellor and they're basically sacking themselves.
I think it's a form of political harikiri, a political submissive to do that. And that's my lived experience. I think Liz Truss lasted 6 days after she sacked me. I mean, I said 3
So if anything happens to Rachel Reeves, it's going to have to be by Rachel Reeves' design.
Yeah, I think what they'll probably do is they'll have a conversation if she moves on, and they'll say, maybe you can be shuffled into a different department. But I can't see her.
No. I mean, that could be catastrophic.
No, it would be damaging. But to sack her entirely from the government, I think would be a disaster for the Prime Minister.
Kwasi Kwarteng, thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Lovely to speak to you. Well, coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to Tim Tozer. He's the former managing director of Vauxhall Motors. I want to speak to him about Trump's tariffs, also why that factory is closing in Luton, and the effect of the ban on petrol and diesel cars on the car industry. I'm also going to be speaking to those 2 Darlington nurses that have taken on their trust after they were forced to share a changing room with a man who identified as a woman. Don't go anywhere. It's the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Paul, I have to say, good on you for joining us tonight. Did you know that we were going to give you such a hard time?
Well, it's certainly provoked some discussion, and the purpose actually of the naming of the streets was to recognise the significant medical pioneers that worked at that hospital over 100 years and often contributed to medical innovations that reduced the fact that we, no longer have infectious diseases so widespread in our population. So my original idea was actually to try and save the buildings and the amazing architecture of the hospital. Unfortunately, it was demolished despite my efforts. So when the new housing estate was being built, the idea turned to how to name those streets. My original idea was actually to name the streets after the medical pioneers and the researchers that worked at the hospital. But unfortunately, the Glasgow City Council came back and said that after recent controversies with naming conventions after people who have turned out to be, controversial. They no longer name streets after people alive or dead. So I have to go back.
Hang on. I can't let that go that easily, Paul. Right. So they wouldn't name it after maybe a scientist who of renown and success, in case at some point somebody said, oh, that scientist was a historic sex offender, and then you'd have to change the name of the street. Are you serious? Virology Grove, Radiography Road. I mean, what do the residents say? Are they embarrassed when people say, where do you live? Vaccine Drive.
Well, I think people are happy to have good quality housing in the area, but also it's provoked intrigue, it's provoked curiosity about the history of the site, and given there's so little physical evidence of the original hospital left, at least thousands of people now know about this really important social history that might otherwise not. So maybe sometimes having quirky, somewhat provocative names will elicit interest.
Well, they're not
it wasn't what I
provocative, they're
originally wanted to
stupid,
name them
Paul.
that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Former chairman and managing director of Vauxhall Motors, Tim Tozer, joins me now. Thank you so much for your time today. You're a great person to speak to about this. These damaging tariffs that Donald Trump is planning to enforce against the British and indeed the rest of the EU on this so-called Liberation Day on April the 3rd. And I hadn't realised, Tim, that actually 8 in 10 cars produced in Britain are exported. And of those, the US is the UK's largest single market by country, accounting for 6.4 billion worth of car exports by 2023. That's 18.4% of the total. So this is going to be catastrophic for the industry, isn't it?
It is not good news at all. There are some particular manufacturers that are going to be seriously exposed, most notably Jaguar Land Rover.
Yeah.
The volume of shipments from the UK into the USA is about 100,000 cars a year, as you said, worth about 6 billion. It's very material. I mean, I think just very briefly, it's worthwhile trying to understand what Trump is up to, because he wants to encourage manufacturing in his USA market, as well as boosting demand. I mean, for example, he is looking at making, and this is with the Senate at the moment, interest on loans for cars that would be manufactured in the USA would be given a tax credit. So he's aggressively going for his electorate, essentially, and it has a cost to us, most definitely.
How should the government be dealing with this? I mean, some have suggested retaliatory tariffs. Others have said that we should be maximising our Brexit advantage because, of course, we could perhaps negotiate outside of the EU and any discussions that those European countries are having with Trump. What do you think they should do?
I think this government, our government, should be pursuing every angle. And I think with the minister out there, I think if he's still out there, trying to negotiate a carve-out, I mean, that is an obvious way forward. I mean, the question, of course, is whether or not, in the way that Trump sees the world, will be given a let. I mean, we think we understand the fact that he is not very much friends of the EU. They clearly irritate him. The fact that we voted for Brexit is almost a plus point from his perspective. So that concept of a carve-out is absolutely to be pursued. I mean, I think from what I understand in the media, that it's proving heavy work. There's no certainty. I think there's talk of this Wednesday we might get a feeling for whether that carve-out is going to be possible or not. So that's the first thing that should be tried. In the event that that does not work, does not come to fruition, I mean, I think it would be unwise to put retaliatory tariffs against them, at least for the short term. I mean, I think there are other candidates, frankly, that we could be thinking of putting tariffs on. We're the only developed major UK market that is letting Chinese imports in FOC without tariffs. And I think that is an oddity given the amount of support the Chinese authorities have given their industry, which has given them now a very strong position, particularly with electric vehicles.
Yes.
So there's an awful lot swirling around at the moment. And I think the other element that is causing great angst in the UK market and for UK manufacturers of cars is the ZEV mandate, which was born in a different era, which is now being absolutely overtaken by events. I mean, last year there were 24% as the target of electric cars. That was missed. The government is pretending that it's all okay because they send out press releases saying that no automaker paid a fine. I mean, there's a lot of poetic license in that. They claim it's due to the flexibilities of the mandate. What that means is certain manufacturers might well be buying credits from Tesla, for example, or from the Chinese, which is pretty outrageous, actually, in that we should expect this government to revisit the mandate radically to ensure that all of the penalties within the mandate, which is £15,000 per car fine if you do not meet that target, which is completely paralyzing the industry. I mean, I know people in the industry who are trying to do nothing other than avoid the £15,000 fine per unit when they should be thinking about how they could sell more cars and create a stronger used car market, a stronger new vehicle market in the UK. So there's
should we go further though, Tim? Should we go further and actually say that the government should scrap the ban on petrols and diesels? People aren't wanting to buy electric cars. They're too expensive. There aren't enough charging ports. Actually, diesels and petrols have never been cleaner comparatively with 20, 30, 40 years ago, and it's absolutely crippling the car market. I mean, you must have been as sad as I was, having grown up next to Luton, to see that Vauxhall factory in Luton now threatened with closure.
Well, and now has closed last week. I mean, Camilla, you're right. The consequences of the mandate are terribly serious. I mean, UK car production last year was as low as it was in 1954. I mean, this is a catastrophe. So the Vauxhall plant has closed. We see that BMW in the Mini factory in Oxford have decided to postpone investment because of the uncertainty. By the way, that BMW plant making Minis sends a lot of Minis to the USA. So if tariffs come on Minis going over the pond, that would put another question mark over that plant. There are issues in the mandate which are just unable to be delivered. The 28% target for this year as a percentage of a total car makers volume that should be electric, that's impossible. It would involve a doubling of the sales rate of the retail customer, the private customer, compared to last year. And for some of the reasons you identified, the cost of the cars, the cost, this is electric vehicles in particular, the cost of the vehicles, the cost of insurance, it all adds up to the extent that they're expensive propositions. And if you don't have the luxury of a drive upon which you could recharge your car, you're then dependent on charging on the roadside. And that normally is about 9 times the price of the overnight charge from home, which does not then have VAT imposed upon it. So the private customer is not flocking to buy electric vehicles. Last year, of new car buyers, private new car buyers, only 1 in 10 chose an electric vehicle. So these targets in the mandate, as they stand today, must be scrapped, as must the fine. I mean, £15,000 is absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
We hear that Jonathan Reynolds has been brought up in the shadow of the plant in Sunderland, the Nissan plant, and he talks nicely and powerfully about understanding that the mandate is not working in the best interests of the industry, but we have not seen anything from him yet. Now, I know he's busy trying to negotiate a carve-out of a trade deal, but he's got a mandate problem of some substance he needs to turn his attention to urgently and
Tim
tear it
Tozer.
up and start again.
Yeah, no, we've heard you loud and clear. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us on GB News this morning. Tim Tozer, former chairman and managing director of Vauxhall Motors. Doesn't make any sense, any of this arbitrary targets that are jeopardising one of our main industries in the UK. Madness, total madness. Coming up next, more madness actually. NHS nurses Bethany Hutchison and Lisa Lockie will be here to give an update on their case as they sue an NHS trust for allowing a man calling himself Rose to use their female changing room. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. We continue to stay unsettled across central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean with further heavy showers and thunderstorms, some localised flooding possible. Through Monday, we can see across much of Greece into Italy those heavy downpours continuing, some brisk winds, feeling quite cold too, but drier further west into Spain and Portugal, sunny spells before heading over to Madeira where there'll be some showers here, and largely dry across the Canary Islands. Over the next few days it stays fairly similar, temperatures in the sunshine reaching the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. High pressure starting to build in, so plenty of dry weather to come across the country. It's still fairly windy, particularly across central and northern parts of the UK. A sunny start to the day, still some showers across northern Scotland, but for most of the dry day to come, plenty of sunny spells, though pretty windy across northern England, eastern parts of northern England as well, eastern Scotland, a northerly breeze here, some large waves along the coast, but winds light further west, and with plenty of sunshine, it will feel pleasant out there. Temperatures reaching around 15 or 16 Celsius above average for the time of year, just a little chilly along those eastern coasts in that wind. As we head through into this evening time, some thicker cloud will start to approach parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland, but for most it's a dry end to the day, plenty of evening sunshine and temperatures still in double figures in places, but starting to feel chilly as the sun drops in the sky. Plenty of dry weather across Northern Ireland, Northern England as well, breeze starting to ease as well. The rest of England and Wales clearing skies to end the day and temperatures around 13 Celsius. Into the evening time, thicker cloud could give a few splashes of rain across Northern Ireland into the Western Isles as we head into the early hours. Otherwise, it's dry for many with clear skies, and that will allow temperatures to drop away. And with light winds, we could see some mist and fog patches forming in places too. Single-figure temperatures down to 3 or 4 in the towns and cities, perhaps a little lower than this in the countryside. So any early frost and fog quickly clearing, and then England and Wales, plenty of sunshine to come. Just still some weather fronts through the Irish Sea up into Northern Ireland and Western Scotland, thick enough for some cloud and outbreaks of patchy rain. Otherwise, it's plenty of dry weather around, unbroken sunshine for parts of England and Wales, and with light winds feeling pleasant, temperatures 17 or 18 Celsius, a little cooler under the cloud further north. See you soon.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family. Simply go to gbnews.com/your say.
Welcome back. Joining me now are NHS nurses Bethany Hutchison and Lisa Lockie. Lovely to see you this morning, ladies. Let's just briefly... Morning. We're all pretty in pink. Look at us. Basically, let's just go through the nuts and bolts of this. You work at Darlington Memorial Hospital. You're one of 5 nurses who are suing the trust for sexual harassment and sex discrimination. And what happened, basically, is that you were forced to share your changing room, the female changing room, with a male colleague called Rose. Now, I know some people say, well, it's a trans woman, but this is a biological male who identifies as female, has not undergone any physical or hormonal transition, with full male genitalia. He cited inclusivity policies. He was backed by the HR department. And now you're left in this legal wrangle. I mean, when it happened, how did it play out? What did the bosses say to you?
It was kind of a, it went on for quite a while. Sort of when it started, we first of all mentioned it to our junior sister, who then sort of passed it on to HR. And we were just told that they were discussing it, that it was a sensitive issue. And then we just would hear nothing. And so then more girls would keep complaining about it, and it kind of just went on. Well, we're discussing it, but we would never hear anything back until Bethy, she got in touch with the Christian legal company who helped us sort of draft a letter to complain, to say that we weren't comfortable with the situation and just expressing our concerns in writing to them, which then sort of set the ball rolling. We had a meeting with HR after that, and things progressed from there, really. So...
Bethany, I'm going to give the pro-trans argument here, which would be, well, this isn't a man. He's identifying as female. He may not have undergone any changes, but his right to claim that he's a woman is his right. Therefore, he can use your changing facilities. And actually, for you to say otherwise means that you're a transphobe.
Yeah, that's absolute nonsense. We aren't transphobes at all. We are happy to nurse transgender patients. We have done. We give them dignity and respect as we would with any other patient. It is, that is regardless of them being transgender, we do our job. When it comes to changing facilities, however, we do not want to get changed in front of a biological male, and we don't want to see them either in that state either. And actually, this person has undergone no transition. There's no medical transition. There's no physical transition. They just identify as a woman, and that's actually unlawful. This is posing a risk to women. We don't know who are the goodies from the baddies, let's say, and it's causing distress amongst the female nurses in the hospital.
Lisa, some might say, look, you've got a perfectly clear point here, and many, many people will agree with you, but to take it all the way through the courts?
It's kind of ended up, we've had to, because we were just being ignored. And there's a definite silencing from the trust. They don't want us to discuss it. We really felt like we didn't really have any other choice. The amount of times that we'd been to the trust and tried to to get them to listen to us, and we were just ignored. So when Beth told me that she'd sought legal advice, I was absolutely delighted. I thought finally they might actually sit up and listen. But unfortunately, they're still sort of dragging their heels and just kind of, I think they're just really hoping that we're just going to shut up and it'll just go away.
And I think their response to us was that we needed to be educated, compromise, be more inclusive.
It was the definite gaslighting thing. You know, at the very start, I was actually convinced that I was a transphobe and a bigot, almost, but not quite. But this is how they want you to feel. They just want you to, you know, stay in your lane and stop causing trouble.
What's been the public reaction, both good and bad? Have you encountered quite a lot of abuse because of the fact that you're standing up to the trust?
Funnily enough, I would say we haven't. We've had more positive than from negative. It was kind of a month or two after we sort of went public, we suddenly started getting mail delivered to work. And I was sort of, there was this big pack of envelopes addressed to us. And I was thinking, oh no, it's going to be anthrax in there. But actually, it was just all these lovely, lovely cards of thank you. And, you know, thank you for standing up for women. Just support, keep going, thank you for what you're doing. But then obviously sort of we've had a lot of support on Twitter. I mean, obviously you get the negatives. There's, you know, there's always negatives. There's people who, you know, will insist that we are transphobes no matter what we say. But it's just the argument that they always come back with. If you have a gender critical view that, you know, that a trans woman is still a man, then you're instantly called a transphobe.
Yes. And how about...
come back with?
Yes, no, I'm familiar with that argument because it's been levelled at me many, many times. How about your union then? Because you're not the only people working in healthcare to be going through this with this sort of case. Tell me about the union and how many more nurses that are being represented.
Oh, there's quite a lot more, yes. I think I've recently just gone through some applications, so we are in the process of reaching out to people. It's growing by the day, which is really exciting. And I think it's just such a shame that we have actually had to set up a union because, you know, we've paid money into unions throughout our careers, and they have sort of rejected us. You were Unison.
I was Unison until you know, Steve North called me a bigot, and that was that cancelled.
No. That's not the best reason to remain a member of a union, is it? Being called a bigot by its chief. And then also, ladies, are you just trying to fight against some of these policies that seem to have crept into the NHS? We've not just seen, you know, males identifying as females using changing rooms, but also policies about calling breastfeeding chest feeding and not referring to mothers as mothers. I mention that because it is Mother's Day. Is it also that kind of thing that you're trying to take on?
I think at the moment the focus is on the transitioning in the workplace policies. It may expand to other things, but we're nurses at the end of the day. We have lives, we've got families.
We're fighting our own battle, but you know, it does kind of it does link in, doesn't it? So, but our priority is our own. It's a policy within the NHS.
Fair enough. Look, best of luck to both of you. I know the court case is being heard in June, and we'll probably connect back up with you after that happens. But Lisa and Bethany, thanks so much for joining me on GB News this morning.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I should point out that a spokesman for County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust said the Trust is committed to providing a safe, secure and respectful working environment for all colleagues operating within the law and adhering to national policies. The Trust has processes in place for listening to and responding to concerns raised by any of our colleagues. We take all concerns raised seriously and investigate them thoroughly. An internal investigation continues to take place while the legal proceedings also continue. Well, there we have it. Coming up next on GB News is Sunday with Michael Portillo, who I hope joins me now from Paddington. Michael, what have you got coming up on the show today?
I certainly do join you from Paddington, and good morning, Camilla. Well, There's been a remarkable hoard from the Iron Age, which has been discovered in North Yorkshire. So we're going to be looking at that. It seems that we learn all sorts of things about the Iron Age that we were uncertain about before. We're going to be celebrating 200 years of Braille with an artist who only has 5% vision. It's also 200 years of modern railways, so he's put up an artwork at Colchester Railway Station. We'll be discussing Margot Robbie's wedding dress in Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights. It appears that it is anachronistically white and low cut. And we're going to be examining the immigration status of Paddington Bear after some remarks that were made by a judge in a court case that implied that he was the embodiment of British values.
Of course he is. I mean, he might be from Peru originally, but he's a British institution. Well, thank you very much to Michael and all of my guests today. I'll be back next week at 9:30. Enjoy Mother's Day, and here's your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We've got plenty of fine and settled weather in store across the UK this afternoon. Plenty of sunshine, but quite breezy down some North Sea coasts. At the moment, low pressure starting to pull away to the east of the UK. That's allowing this ridge of high pressure to topple in from the west, bringing in some lighter winds and plenty of fine weather to the bulk of the UK too. So looking at things in more detail for the rest of today, we've got some patchy cloud towards the far north and northeast of the UK, bringing in an isolated shower. But for the bulk of the UK, it's set fair, plenty of sunshine around, and temperatures doing quite well in the sunshine, particularly across England and Wales, reaching the mid, locally upper teens in Celsius during the afternoon, up to 16 or 17 Celsius down towards the southeast, but feeling cooler down those North Sea coasts.